So, a warm welcome to What's New with SAP BTP. We have a great agenda lined up for you with four focus topics. The first one being application development and automation. Today, we will focus on SAP Build and Enterprise Automation with Vanessa Micheli-Schmidt. Vanessa is Chief Product Manager for SAP Build, SAP's low-code, no-code offering. She focuses on creating product vision and roadmap based on market insights and requirements. Next, we have integration, focus topic being cloud integration, new inspect functionality with Markus Münkel. Markus is product owner for the inspect feature in the cloud integrity capability for SAP Integration Suite at SAP SE in Waldorf, Germany. He worked in various positions at SAP during the last 24 years, starting as ABAP developer. Also within integration, we have integration assessment by Konstantin Heine, product manager for business technology platform within SAP's technology and innovation board area. His focus is on SAP integration solution advisory methodology and the integration assessment capability within SAP Integration Suite. Next is data and analytics with a focus on SAP Master Data Governance Cloud Edition by Markus Ganzer. Markus Ganzer is product manager for SAP Master Data Governance, MDG. Markus started in SAP R3, Data Quality Management and Plant Maintenance. His focus is on MDG rollout and enablement. And he is a strong advocate for SAP community. Next, we have security. The first topic here we focus on is SAP Cloud Identity Services with Marco Sommer, product manager. Marco is responsible for the identity authentication service. And next is SAP Secure Login Servers for SAP GUI. Our expert here is Christian Kohrs, product security chief expert for identity and access management in the SAP BTP. He has a background in computer science and worked in various positions at SAP during the last 23 years. And before I hand over to our first expert, Vanessa, I would like to ask you to post all your questions in the chat. We will answer them during the presentations, but we've also reserved some time for answering your questions live after the presentations are over. In case there are too many questions, we will answer them in the comments area. And with this, I would like to hand over to you, Vanessa.
Thank you very much, Tanja. So let me share my screen. And I think it's working. Maybe Tanja, you can give me a thumbs up. Thank you. All right. Oh, good. Well, thank you for the kind introduction. Let's start right away and have a look at what's new in application development and automation. Maybe for the ones that do not know what SAP Build is, let me spend a couple of words on this slide actually here. So SAP Build enables people that are closest to the business problem, that is finance experts, supply chain experts, manufacturing experts, and whatnot, to create and augment enterprise applications, also to automate processes and to design business sites. What it does is it empowers users to develop irrespective of their skill level, because you can do that in Build all visually. So there's Build is actually a combination of 3 different capabilities. And one is Build Apps, which, as the name suggests, actually enables the users to build beautiful web and mobile applications. Build Process Automation is that part of Build that allows the automation of workflows and tasks with comprehensive workflow management, robotic process automation, and also AI capabilities. And then we have Build Workzone that actually brings the capabilities of the Launchpad that you might know and Workzone into one solution that actually allows you to increase your personal productivity or also to create business sites for communities to share knowledge, etc. So all of these capabilities do have a common denominator, actually 3 common denominators, as you can see on the slide. One is that you can build visually. I mentioned that already. So you can, within Build, create all these assets without writing a single line of code. Second is you can also integrate seamlessly. So here we are offering already pre-built connectors and business content for SAP and non-SAP systems. And we are constantly trying to enhance our offering here. Third point is Build allows you to collaborate securely. So here we are putting a focus on fostering collaboration between the business and development teams with built-in functionality for governance or lifecycle management. So I thought about sharing maybe the strategic priorities that we have set for 2023. We are in the half of the year, but there's still a lot to do. But I still believe that this might be of interest. So first priority this year is really focusing on integrated user experience and functionality. So what does that mean? I mean, maybe you know that Build has been released at TechEd last year. That is November. So it's still a pretty young product. So this also means that, and we know that, and some of you have told us that as well, there's still a lot to do with respect to user experience, because just giving 3 distinct capabilities one name doesn't make the user experience harmonized, right? So we are really this year focusing a lot on end-to-end experiences, enhancing these across Build as a whole offering. Second strategic priority is enterprise trust and governance. So we really believe, and also we heard from you, our customers, that you cannot talk about low-code, no-code solution offerings without talking about govs as well. Because if you allow now a new group of people in your company to create applications, there needs to be a way for IT to actually govern this in a way that you can monitor what's going on, which processes are running, where might be bottlenecks, but also taking a look at like which applications are appearing now here and there, and making sure that it's still scalable and also strategic with respect to the company's strategic goals. Third point is the deep integration into SAP applications. So here we're focusing on really seamless integration when you develop on BTP, that is data access, backend integrations, etc. And the fourth priority we have is on content packages. We want to offer, we do offer a lot of these already, but we want to offer actually many more to allow you to simplify visual composition, improve our UX, as already mentioned, and harness new capabilities. In this brief presentation, I want to focus on 4 highlights, and all of these are already available still. It's our roadmap highlights for 2023, but there's still a lot to come. But let's have a look at what has happened already. So first is there is the ability now to trigger workflows and automated processes based on business events, such as, for instance, new employee onboarding. We'll see that later in the integration suite. A second highlight is actually that SAP Signavio and Build are now really tightly integrated. So that enables actually the automatic execution of build process automation directly from Signavio whenever an inefficient process is detected. Third highlight is the improved discoverability of pre-built content across Build, across Integration Suite, also BTP content and APIs in the SAP Business Accelerator Hub. And also another highlight for us definitely has been that SAP is now part of RISE with SAP and also Grow with SAP. So let's have a little double click on all of these highlights. So this is probably the biggest piece of news that we also shared at Sapphire. It's the Unified Enterprise Automation Solution. That's basically an evolution now of SAP Build Process Automation integrated with SAP Signavio and Integration Suite. So what's the main advantage here actually is that with that solution, you now get access, simplified access to business semantics. So we talk about enterprise automation when business processes are automated and optimized end-to-end by a combination of advanced technologies. And you might have heard also the title hyper automation. I think that's what Gartner calls this. So this is opposed to traditional automations that focus on workflows and like robotic process automation, looking at tasks and automating them individually. So what, like focusing on the tasks and the automation of these. So what Build Now actually allows organizations is to enhance their processes and automate much more complex and end-to-end business processes compared to these traditional automation offerings. And how does it do it? Well, it does so by breaking the process down into sub-processes and then automating these individually. And this way you can then reassemble them into larger, much more complex processes that are eventually easier to manage and also allow to scale. Additionally, I also mentioned we offer a vast amount of this pre-built content, and especially in the context of processes and automations. You can discover there's really a lot to see in Business Accelerator Hub. When you think about the business applications like S4HANA, human experience management, etc., they do provide a rich semantic layer of business objects, of data and services. And with the integration of Integration Suite now, you gain native access to all of this. And this allows us to integrate all of this data and allow you to improve actually your processes and your journey towards so-called enterprise automation. So to summarize, what this means is that enterprise automation with SAP offers a continuous process insights, bringing you quickly from insights to action. You can be much more effective with the right tool for the right job and eventually automate completely. And the impact is accelerated to automate much faster for immediate business results. Looking at the second highlight I wanted to share, this is connected because it's actually the connection of Signavio solutions and build process automation. Some of you might say, I saw that slide around TechEd already. True, but back then it was our plan, and now everything that's on it is actually generally available. So everything that we have promised is now available in the products. So what's that exactly? We have a tight integration between Signavio and build process automation, mentioned that already. And this now actually gives us more than 135 tailored recommendations for SAP build process automations within the SAP Signavio solutions. You can also in Signavio now discover and trigger automated actions that actually trigger build process automation when a specific pattern is detected. Say a certain KPI is reached or a threshold is actually reached, then a process might be triggered automatically. And last but not least, build process automation also complements Signavio process governance. So I mentioned the SAP Business Accelerator Hub already, and here you can also see the QR code if you're interested. What we actually do is, because we have so much pre-built content and our offering is growing probably as we speak, and we want to actually offer a way that you can extend and enhance your SAP applications like S4HANA, SuccessFactors, etc., that you can do that with the help of this pre-built content across Build, across Integration Suite, but also BTP content and APIs. And all of these can be found in the Business Accelerator Hub. I mentioned Rise and Grow, and you've probably heard about these programs, right? It's our solutions basically that bundle applications, tools, and services that are necessary to continue transforming and automating your business functions. The news portion is that SAP Build is actually now part of Rise and of Grow. So this update of Rise and Grow actually even better supports your S4HANA transformation journey, and it really provides, when you think of it, more flexibility for enhanced integration and extension scenarios on BTP. Because you actually have already provided entitlements, and you could use these to accelerate innovation by building extensions, business sites, or as I said, by automating your processes. And I always like to mention, because what happens here is Build actually opens up a whole new world of extensibility possibilities, because now we call that person the citizen developer. That is, the less technical person can now be part of the development equation, a person that is close to the business, might be in the business, but is very close to the data and has deep process knowledge. So I want to end this very quick summary with a demo video on the on the onboarding example that I briefly mentioned. It really shows an enterprise automation with SAP Build. And I'm going to run it now. So what you're going to see here is actually how the process of hiring new employees can be improved with enterprise automation. You can see here the SAP Signavio Process Intelligence dashboard, and you can thoroughly analyze the current internal onboarding process. When you take a look at the throughput funnel here, you can clearly identify bottlenecks and problem areas in this onboarding process. So for instance, getting the right equipment, system access, and training assignments for new hires display long cycle times. What this means is there's room for improvement here. So going to SuccessFactors, which is the lead central system in which the entire onboarding process is managed. It's also the tool that HR business partners use to enter new hires into the system of records. So this is what this looks like. A new employee is now actually created. Name is Jane Smith, and she needs to be added to the system. All relevant data of this new hire is now manually entered into the according fields. And Jane is going to fulfill the position of a product oversight manager, which is a very specialized role requiring additional equipment, training, test-specific onboarding requirements, etc. So exceptional activities like these, they cannot be handled with SuccessFactors. So this is why it makes sense to extend the system with Integration Suite and build process automation. So after entering and submitting all remaining data, the new hire is generated and an event is triggered in SuccessFactors. And this can be utilized now with Advanced Event Mesh, which is part of the SAP Integration Suite. With Advanced Event Mesh, you can enable applications, integrations, and extensions to communicate asynchronously through events. You can also decouple multiple system processes by managing principals. So here in the messaging broker, you can see a queue that subscribes to these events coming from SuccessFactors. So every time a new hire is generated, this is noticed and predefined activities can be triggered or are triggered in this case, right? So one of those activities triggers a workflow now within SAP Build's process automation that I've mentioned before, the design environment for workflow orchestration and intelligent automations. This workflow receives all relevant employee information from the integration suite. The data is then processed within the different process steps, and it's validated through so-called decisions. Approval requests are sent out and transactions to other systems can also be performed. Approval forms or notifications can be created easily in the forms editor that you can see here. And this one will eventually request approval for purchasing new equipment, assigning the right trainings to the new hire, etc. With the decisions functionality, you can actually apply business logic to your processes. And here, these are used to determine, for instance, which training, which equipment is applicable depending on the job role. This is what the form looks like in productive usage. The HR business partner can receive this task within Build, within the inbox application, and can review all relevant data in one place. And the job role, the name, the equipment and training, all of that has been identified by the decisions. They could leave a comment and then have the options to actually approve or reject the form. Afterwards, in the backend, the previously seen workflow takes care of all other activities without human intervention. This includes automatically assigning a purchase requisition in SAP Ariba, which is our system of record for sourcing and procurement. So let's check in Ariba if the system was successfully and navigate to the My Requests. And you can see the purchase requisition for Jane Smith here with all respective line items. Additionally, shared service activities can be triggered, which you can see here. And in this case, a leveraged SAP Service Cloud for entering various types of tickets. A ticket has been created for Jane. Have a look. And this is critical to make sure that she's granted the right system access, signed an NDA, and has reviewed the compliance forms. And in conclusion, most new hire activities are actually automated. And Jane can eventually enjoy her first day in the office with everything she needs. I know that was super quick, but we will also share the link of this video so you can have another look at it if you like. So yeah, I want to finalize actually by mentioning just briefly what you have seen. You've seen the powerful combination of SAP Build, our low-code solution, together with Signavio and SAP Integration Suite, and how that actually opens up a whole new world for you to improve your processes or create extensibility scenarios. Thank you for your attention. And now I'm handing over to Marcus.
Thank you, Vanessa. So I will proceed with sharing my screen. Hello, my name is Markus Münkel. I would like to present you a feature that we recently contributed to the Integration Suite, which is SAP platform for end-to-end business processes. As part of the Integration Suite, the cloud integration supports discovering, developing, and operating the integration flows, which are actually used to achieve end-to-end process integration based on message exchange. In cloud integration, you can choose from a large variety of pre-packaged content, or you are totally free to create your custom content based on a large selection of adapters, mappings, flow steps, and other building blocks. And even custom code is enabled for maximum flexibility. With this rich set of features also comes some sort of responsibility in that you would be interested to watch your resource consumption of your integration content. And to this purpose, we came up with the inspect feature to support the customer in getting insights into the resource usage by the integration content. So we managed to relate the resource consumption for all the different kinds of resources which are required to operate the integration scenarios to the customers, and also enable a drill down to inspect at the level of individual integration flows what is resource consumption. So to address common use cases, we provide a resource overview at a glance. So we support also troubleshooting any resource bottlenecks which might emerge, and also we let the customers identify trends in resource usage. So we achieve this by creating a sound databases for the resource footprint and relating this to the integration content specifically. We enable a deeper inspection of the resource usage, and in order to optimize or even troubleshoot resource consumption, we let the customers identify what are actually the top consuming integration flows and giving guidance in the possibilities to actually improve and optimize here to eventually adjust the integration content with the end to improve the resource consumption. And then the cycle closes in that we can verify based on the data in how far this optimization has been effective. So as mentioned, this is quite new, and we started out with a database related resources, which you see in the screenshot, which I will also showcase later in the demo. And obviously there's more to follow. So we are continuously extending this to cover additional resources. So this is currently available in Integration Suite, as mentioned, and in the cloud integration in Cloud Foundry environment. If you're interested, you might check out our blog post. And now I would continue a small demo, which is similar to the story outlined in our blog. Okay, this is the Integration Suite API. First of all, we have an help integration where we see the different parts of the UI explained. And among this, there's also the inspect feature. It's a short explanation. And here we see a bit more text, eventually linking to the product documentation, which will give specific detailed guidance. So when we bring this up, we first get to a landing page about the database resources, like utilization of database connections, the data store, and database transaction monitoring storage. So to see at a glance, am I fine with respect to database storage and availability of database connections and these things. So Ideally, this should all be green. So specifically what these tiles tell you is a title, what it is about, and then an icon representing the degree how much this is utilized. So this is 1.5%, so quite fine. We also provide a limit applicable, how much storage in this case is available, and then the total consumption, which is currently like 512 megabytes. And this is throughout the tiles. So this is another example where things are not so fine. So here we hit a situation where there is a critical consumption of database connections. So we can have a look at about the details and try to find ways to troubleshoot this. So as a detail, the failed attempts are reported, which means the number of times an integration flow unsuccessfully tried to obtain a database connection to execute a database operation. So there's some risk of message processing failures in this situation. So if we click here, we are first taken to an overview of the trend of the average utilization, which is represented by the bars. So this is shown on an hourly basis, and the height of the bars goes from 0 to 100% utilization. So the red ones would signal that we have a critical utilization here. The legend also provides the meanings of the semantic coloring we are using to indicate okay, warning, or critical. The red line chart represents these cases where we actually see failures to obtain a database connection. So here we see a scheduler, which is scheduled to run every 12 hours. So we see the critical situation appearing at 18 o'clock and then 6 o'clock for that reason. So we would like to drill further down in order to see what is going on. We can also look a bit further back in time using this dropdown. And we can do certain things from here. So we can show the concrete values. We can provide navigation to show the message monitoring to inspect any impact on iflows and message processings. We can drill down to the integration flow usage, and we can zoom in, zoom out, so we can change the time frame also from here. So let's first inspect the usage, so which gives a breakdown per integration flow. And here we are using so-called heat maps for visualization. So here we show the top flows, which are consuming the most database connections. So in the vertical axis, you see the names of the integration flows. And the time axis in the horizontal one. And the color shades give the actual degree of usage. So the deeper the shade is, the more is the resource consumption. So you should see at a glance which are the top consumers and when does it happen. So also here, we have certain means for navigating to inspect more details, like displaying the messages, which would mean from here specifically for this integration flow. And we can also navigate to show the integration flow as such. In the second heat map, we show which flows are actually affected. So this is kind of the other side of the medal. So the upper one shows the top consumers, and the lower one shows the one who are affected by resource shortage. And here again, you see the same things on the axis. So vertical axis has iflow names, horizontal axis has the time when an impact was observed in terms of failed connection attempts. And there is semantic coloring here to highlight the number of failed attempts related to the total usage of DP connections. So from here, you could continue to troubleshoot and inspect in more detail what is going on. So first, we could proceed by checking the actual impact. So we can click on such a red cell in order to bring up the message monitoring. So we can choose show messages. which would take us to the message monitor. And indeed, we see here a couple of message processing failures. When we click to reveal the actual error message, we see that indeed there is a problem with JDBC connections, that connection is not available. And therefore, we see this message processing failure. So now we could proceed with inspecting this integration flow and getting some information of what we can do about it. So this is the product documentation for the inspect feature. And in the left tree, you see these different resource types that we are currently inspecting. That was data store, database transactions, and we have now been looking at the database connection usage. And each of those will contain a section which will tell what to do in critical situations. So what can I do about it? And in this case, we find a concrete recommendation that the transaction handling might be checked. So if we indeed need transactions or not, because if it's on unnecessarily, it can mean that database connections are held for a long time unnecessarily. So we can go and check out this recommendation. There's also some information below in terms of guidelines. So now we go to this Maxplorer integration flow, which is highlighted, which is a top consumer. And here we can check some details about this flow and ultimately navigate to deployed artifact to inspect how it looks like. So this is a quite simple integration flow, but which has more or less all the parts that are common to all integration flows, even though we often see flows with tens or even hundreds of flow steps. So there is some sender using an adapter, in this case GMS adapter, and we see a couple of flow steps which do processing of this message. And all of this comes with a set of configuration properties. So let's bring up the properties of integration process to reveal the transaction settings that were mentioned in the product documentation. And here we see transaction handling is on, so it is active, and this always comes with this warning that this has to be handled consciously. So in some cases, this is definitely required. It makes sense, but there are some guidelines to it. And also you have to see if you need it at all. So here we see it is on. So we could consider, is it really required? In this case, we would decide, oh, this is not required. Actually, I can deactivate this thing and see if the situation improves. So here I'm in the designer where I would be able to apply changes to the integration flow. So I go to the edit mode so that I can apply my changes. I can bring up this transaction settings. And now I can deactivate it by changing it to not required. And for this to take effect, I'm deploying the integration flow. This needs a confirmation, and in a minute we will, or in a second, we will see another confirmation that it is eventually deployed. And then after some time, we can check if the scheduler runs the next time, has the situation actually improved? So hopefully, yes. So let's see. So some time will pass, and now indeed the tile is green, so no critical issue is reported anymore. So we can verify by revealing the usage trends, which we checked before. That's where we left off with this red bars, and scheduler runs 12 hours after. We see it again running at the expected time, which is around 18 o'clock. But this time we see no red bars, fortunately, but we see higher values for this green line, which just reflects the activity of database usage. So as expected, there is now more activity on the database. since this scheduled integration flow is now running, it's running properly. And we can also look a bit forward to be sure that this is also for the future. And here we see indeed repeated invocations are running nicely. So this would be the end of my demo and my presentation. And with this, I would hand over to the next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Markus. And I have the pleasure now to share some updates regarding the integration assessment capability. So the integration assessment capability is still quite new, so it's a little bit older than 1 year now. And we would like to talk a little bit about 2 release highlights. Number one is we've recently released a standard set of APIs for the integration assessment. So the integration assessment as such helps you with a guided approach to define your integration strategy, and it's based on our integration solution advisory methodology. This methodology is already available for a long time. And last year, we've released the integration assessment capability to directly embed the integration assessment in the integration suite. Now, you can imagine that in an enterprise architecture tool landscape, as well as an application management landscape, there might be some demands to actually retrieve information from the integration assessment. And this is why recently launched, we have made available the API for the integration assessment capability. If you go to the SAP Business Accelerator Hub, you can find a rich set of entities that we support. If you're familiar with the integration solution advisory methodology, some of the entity names will sound familiar to you. For example, things like domain or applications. And I just invite you to explore the API and have a look at the different options you have here and maybe build your own scenarios with the APIs that are now available. Talking about applications, the second update I would like to share is that we've enhanced the guiding content for the integration assessment. It's always a little bit hard to demonstrate what is included in the content because we constantly update this guiding content. But one core element of the integration assessment are interface requests. So if you're not familiar, maybe very short, it is at the core of this process, you run through a predefined questionnaire that can be adapted. And based on certain questions that you can see here, for example, selecting the integration use case patterns, for example, A2A integration, providing some more information, for example, that transformations are required or monitoring is required. The rules embedded into the system will determine a recommended integration strategy and technology recommendation to you. So we've enhanced the guiding content in the latest release and with guiding content related to SAP customer experience solutions. So in case you want to determine integration strategy scenarios or technology recommendations when integrating solutions from the solution portfolio, you're now able to run through the assessment and derive the right recommendations out of it. So in this particular example, I've just selected an equipment replication, so the object equipment between SAP S/4HANA Cloud and the new SAP Sales and Service Cloud version 2. And in this particular scenario, you have a mixed integration technology, a recommendation of SAP Event Mesh in combination with SAP Integration Suite Cloud integration. So in this particular scenario, you see that we have enabled, for example, some application policies telling you that for certain objects and certain integration scenarios, another integration technology is required. And this is not only limited to this scenario here, but basically we cover a broad set of recommendations for the customer experience space. We will constantly update the content here, and I just invite you also to explore what is available now in the customer experience space and then determine your integration strategy using integration assessment. And with that, I would like to hand over then to my next colleague.
Thank you, Konstantin. So let me quickly share my screen. So thank you, Konstantin. Hope everybody can hear. So I'd like to, so I hear an echo, which is very strange. So I'd like to share with you information about SAP Master Data Governance Cloud Edition. There is something. And SAP Master Data Governance Cloud Edition on SAP Business Technology Platform is the latest member of the SAP Master Data Governance product family. It focuses on the governance of core business partner master data attributes, and it is a software as a service deployment that allows to kickstart an enterprise MDM initiative at low entry barriers, and it is complementary to MDG on S/4HANA. So the key capabilities of SAP Master Data Governance are data quality management. And this means that it enables master data specialists to describe and manage data quality rules and apply these directly in the governance process, for example, in inbound processing, consolidation, central governance, and data quality evaluations. And it also visualizes the prevailing data quality and lets you seamlessly remediate quality issues. The next key capability is consolidation, and this is used for duplicate detection and best record calculation. In addition, we have central governance, which is used to ensure that business partner master data is of high quality and ready to use directly at the point of creation. And of course, we have replication to the connected systems, and our replication technologies used are SOAP and MDI. An important use case that is possible now is the decentral maintenance of business partner data that triggers an inbound process in SAP Master Data Governance Cloud Edition to prevent duplicate data. Typically, the creation of customer or supplier data happens directly in a business application, but in many cases, this leads to the existence of duplicate data in the system landscape. SAP Master Data Governance Cloud Edition can be the remedy here. The creation or change of a business partner can be started decentrally, for example, in SAP Ariba Supplier Lifecycle and Performance, in SAP S/4HANA Cloud, in SAP CX or other applications. And this triggers a subsequent process in Master Data Governance Cloud Edition, with the sequence of steps that make sure that the data is of high quality. This includes a match step to detect potential duplicates, a validate step.
Marcus, may I quickly interrupt? You do not have to wait for the captions to finish writing. You just can continue your presentation.
Okay. So, yeah, this includes a match step to detect potential duplicates, a validate step to verify that the data complies with the defined data quality rules before the consolidated data is activated and replicated to the decentral applications. And this process can run fully automated. Human intervention by human interaction is sorry for that, but the problem is that I hear the captions and this.
Why don't you can stop the caption? Just click on the X, and then it stops.
Where's the X?
Top right, and there's a box where the captions are written, and the X. Now, okay.
Okay, sorry for that. So again, so no.
The captions, wait, let's see if I can caption.
Okay, sorry for that.
Under the more button, you should be able to switch off the caption.
Yeah, okay. Again,
okay.
So this process runs fully automated, and human intervention by subject matter experts is rather an exception. And this happens, for example, when the matching run produces an open match group where a data specialist must decide if this is duplicate data or not. Another case of manual intervention is when the incoming record sorry.
Marcus, can I help you in any way?
Yes, I don't get rid of the captions. I put
the black menu at the bottom where you had the share screen button, there should be a show captions button, and you just click on the little arrow and you just make sure it's off. It's the menu at the bottom of Zoom.
3 dots.
Sorry, again.
Yeah, maybe just stop sharing quickly and you can fix it.
I stopped sharing at this point.
At the bottom, you should see show captions.
More button?
Sorry. Yeah. I see show captions and
click on the arrow.
And it's yes.
Now it's off, right?
It is off, yes. Yeah. In the more button.
Yeah, I think now it should be off.
Sorry again for all the confusion here. This was
Do you want to continue or should we move to the next topic?
Yeah, please move to the next topic. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. No worries. Thank you, Marcus. So Christian, I think you're up.
I think it's me too.
Yeah, it's Marco first.
Marcos, okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Marco Sommer. I'm product manager for the Cloud Identity Services, and I wanted to share with you some insights into a recent feature that we released. It's about authorization management for the administration console. It was actually driven by demand from many of our customers, actually, especially from the SuccessFactors area, where customers were asking for more flexibility when assigning authorizations for the administration console. And we decided to go for a very holistic concept. So we wanted to have a generic concept based on policies so that we can very fine-granular define authorization for all the resource objects that we have in the administration console. We gave it a start with the users and groups, but we want to extend it also to corporate identity providers, to applications, and so on. The permissions shall be granted on attribute level, and it shall be possible to filter what kind of data is an administrator entitled to access or update. To make life easier for our customers, we are going to deliver SAP delivered base policies, which customers can extend or refine. We call the solution delegated user administration that allows a very fine granular access control. Now, what was the goal? Actually, when we had this situation so far, we had a rather coarse granular authorization configuration in the administration console. You could switch on whether an administrator has the rights to manage users or not. And that's all. If he is entitled to manage the users in a particular tenant, then he can do that for all the users. And this is something that can be done now much more fine granular. So the permissions can be defined in policies and then assigned to users. There can be conditions based depending on the resource. For instance, for users, you can define certain conditions based on username or country or something like that. And there are special operators to limit the access, so that at the end of the day, we are able to define a policy that allows, for instance, that an administrator is entitled to read all the users which come from Germany, and the attributes that the administrator is entitled to see will be first name, last name, and email address. And this is something that we want to have a look at, how it looks like in the system. I briefly prepared here an administration console with a particular tenant. So let's briefly go to the applications where we see the new concept. And the new concept is defined here in that regards for the administration console itself. Navigating to the administration console, I have a new tab, authorization policies. Let's filter just for the ones that we have for users. And we see here the ones in capital letters are the predefined ones. And I actually refined two of the base policies that were delivered. Here I defined a policy read users. I already assigned it to an administrator called limited admin. Here I'm authenticated and logged in with my user. Whereas this limited admin user is entitled to read users that are from Germany. And he's also assigned to manage users with the same configuration and rules that this administrator is entitled to delete and update users coming from Germany. Let's have a look how this administrator will see the administration console. This here is the very same tenant, and I'm logged in as limited admin. If I navigate to the user management, I will see that this administrator is entitled to see and sees only 2 users. If I navigate into the user profile, I see that the user Hans Demo is located in Germany, and also Charlotte is located in Germany. Now, how does it look like if I adjust a certain rule? For that, let's take an example. And I change the rule setting for the users that are possible to be retrieved, and I update it to those users which come from France. Of course, one wouldn't do that with a policy read users DE for Germany, but for demo purposes, I'm doing that. Now, the administrator, limited admin, should see a different kind of users. I hope we don't have a refresh problem here. Changing it here, you see, now this administrator will see 2 different users. Louis and Antoinette Demo are from country France. And basically that's it, how very easy and very flexible you can now define authorizations in the administration console. As mentioned, it's so far established for the resources user and group management, and we are continuously extending that to further objects in the future. And with that, I hand over to Christian.
Yes, thank you very much, Marco. I just published the link to the release chat. Might be interesting for a release blog, might be interesting for people. But I'm here for a different topic. Let me start sharing my screen for that. So one more thing, so to say, for all the people that are out there. SAP Secure Login Service for SAP GUI. I'd like to present this. It's a new offering that we have, and I'm the area product owner for this. We're still talking about SAP GUI because we know that many of our customers still need this for their on-premise landscapes, for their private cloud landscapes. And we have that here, and I hope you can see my screen now. Here it is. And single sign-on, of course, is a capability that we all are interested in, that we know how important it is for security reasons, for productivity reasons, simply for end-user satisfaction. And we've built now this new offering, which is similar to the existing on-premise product SAP Single Sign-On, but takes things to a new level because it's no longer based on on-premise server components. There's no longer this dependencies to the Java server, which made the on-premise functionality a bit cumbersome. This is now all based on a cloud backend, based on the same small and very lean desktop client, but everything else is then running in the cloud. And one nice thing that we've now finally managed to deliver, and many customers were waiting for that, is the integration with identity providers. That might not sound so big, but for many customers, it was really important because they wanted to have the same end user experience for single sign-on that they have in their browser UIs, also for SAP GUI desktop clients. And in the past, you might remember that it was very much different because in the browser, you had your Okta, your Ping, your Microsoft Azure AD, or our own identity authentication service. Whereas in SAP GUI, you had then the static UI from the secure login client, which was representing a screen from the on-premise Java server. So there was a bit of a rupture there, I would say, between the two worlds. That's something that we've now managed to bring together. And this also gives us much more flexibility with respect to the capabilities that we can now offer with respect to authentication, and also bringing in existing configuration and functions from your landscape. And I have a demo here that I would like to run as a video. And we always start with SAP Log-On. So that's the desktop client that everybody knows and loves. So where you start your connections. And with the secure login client from our product, as part of the installation, whenever you start a connection to a backend system, there's a check whether a cryptographic token is available for authentication. And if not, then the secure login client brings up a log-on screen. And as mentioned in the past, this logon screen was static. So you could enter username, password, and then there was a check based on the Java application server. But now what you see here is actually the identity authentication service logon screen running inside of a browser control in the secure login client. And so everything that's possible inside of the identity authentication service with respect to authentication can now also be done for SAP GUI desktop clients. So it's the same user experience, the same security configuration on the backend. And in the end, just like in the past, you have your authentication done and you're inside of your ABAP system with network encryption, with single sign-on, everything's in place. And single sign-on, of course, means that you don't have to authenticate again and again. So the next time you open up this connection, you're authenticated automatically, simply because the digital certificate that we use as a security token is still in place. But to show you a bit more capabilities here, I'm throwing away the certificate now locally for a minute, and instead we'll trigger a new authentication and just show you what we can do, simply because we're using now identity authentication as the authenticating system. And identity authentication, maybe you know this, supports conditional authentication, which means that I can say which identity provider should do the authentication based on certain rules. And here I've configured a rule that when a user comes in with an email domain sap.com, a different identity provider is supposed to take over. What you see here is now a second identity provider. It's again an identity authentication service tenant, but it could be anything. And this identity provider now has a separate user base. It has separate security configuration. And one thing that this identity provider, for example, demands is two-factor authentication based on FIDO. So that's also something we can now offer, simply because we have the capabilities of the identity provider fully integrated into the flow, that if the identity provider supports FIDO or whatever other technology for authentication, then you can simply reuse this here, and it becomes part of the authentication flow also for the SAP GUI. And just like before, once you're authenticated, you have your security token, you have your X509 certificate deployed locally on your desktop. And as long as that certificate is there, you can now log in without having to do these complex authentication steps again. And how long this certificate is valid depends on your configuration. Default is 12 hours. After 12 hours, the certificate expires, and then you have to do the authentication again. And just one more thing here. So I've again removed the certificate to trigger the authentication flow, because you might be wondering, why would I connect one authentication service tenant to another authentication service tenant? That's not so helpful. Now here I'm using an Microsoft.com email address, and that now triggers authentication based on an Azure AD account, because I've once again done this conditional authentication, but now connecting to Azure AD as the identity provider. And here I'm now using a user that doesn't even exist in my identity authentication service tenant. It only exists in Azure AD, but I can still use it to authenticate to the secure login service, and then get the certificate that helps me to access my ABAP systems. And with this approach, you're bringing together both worlds. So you have your rather sophisticated browser configuration for authentication. And now you can simply reuse all of that also in SAP GUI and have the same user experience, same level of security. And I think everybody's happy. So a nice new feature. And with that, I'm handing it back to Tanja for the final words.
Great. Thank you so much, Christian, for this very fast overview. And of course, a big thanks to all presenters for their excellent presentation. It was really awesome. And sorry again for the technical glitch we had. And of course, a big and warm thank you for joining us. I hope it was a valuable session for you, and we hope to see you again in one of our next streams. With this, I would like to wish everyone a great day and a great evening, depending on where you are. Goodbye.